Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Diversified Semantic Layer podcast. Today we're doing a special You Geeks edition with one of our distinguished podcast members, I guess. Staff. I don't know, but I don't even know what we call ourselves. Anyway,
contributors.
Contributors. That's a good word. I'm going to be talking to one of our contributors, Dallas Marks, to get to know a little bit more about him. So, welcome, Dallas.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and get right into the questions. Where do you hail from originally?
Originally, I was born in Steubenville, Ohio, in a great little steel town on the Ohio River, and I was immediately whisked away to a small little town in southeastern Ohio called Belpre, and I decided to go to college at the University of Cincinnati, so I moved there, and I've pretty much stayed in the Cincinnati area ever since, and now I live in Oxford, which is home of my University Redhawks.
Yep, so I'm actually from Ohio as well, so I know all of the places that you just talked about. I may be the only person that listens to the show who has. That's good. That's good. So obviously you're in Oxford. Who's your current employer?
My current employer is EV Technologies. So I work with Eric Vallow and Koyance, and I work with Clint and Greg Myers. So pretty much the entire Diversified Semantic Layer panelist selection, except for you're the lone holdout, I think.
I am. I think Josh may be holding out too, but I could be wrong. I don't know. All right. Well, that's good. So you're with EV now, but you've sort of been a consultant in the area for a while. How long have you been a business objects type person?
I started doing business objects just a little over 11 years ago.
Okay.
So prior to that, I was a C++ and Oracle and web developer.
Okay. Now, did you go to college for computer science, or is that just sort of the job you ended up with?
I went to school to study electrical engineering and computer engineering, but I've always imagined myself in some kind of office environment like I am now.
Okay. So that's a pretty good background. Do you consider yourself more of a developer, an admin, a trainer, an architect, a report builder, a universe designer? What do you think is your sweet spot, and what do you enjoy the most?
Well, first of all, I've been able to do all of those roles. I think everybody starts out as probably a universe developer and some kind of report developer. When XIR2 came out, that's when I got more involved with server architecture and administration. And in my current role with EV Technologies, that's my primary activity is helping customers remotely. I get to work out of my home office, and working remotely to keep their environments running and perform installations and upgrades.
Good. So, what is your favorite technology in the business object stack currently?
Oh, I definitely would have to say that my favorite technology in the stack is LiveOffice. No, seriously, it's interesting. You try to branch out, and I've worked with Excelsius or dashboards. I've worked with Explorer. And this will kind of sound biased because I did help contribute to the SAP Press Web Intelligence book, but I continue to be amazed by Web Intelligence just because it seems to be kind of the most humble, but yet the most versatile in terms of what you can do with it, in terms of how easy it is to get content on a tablet. and so I've continued to enjoy working with it.
Good. Good. So speaking of tablets, what sort of mobile device are you rocking today?
I still have my 3-year-old iPad 2, so we will see what kind of offerings that Apple has. I'm not much of an Android fan. Um, my big problem with my iPad 2 right now is it's my only Apple product still using the legacy 30-pin connector. So
Uh,
so charging and syncing tends to be a problem when when everything else is has got the newer connectors on it.
right. Yeah. No, I'm going through a bit of a charger divided in my bag as well, with three or four 30 pins and three or four lightning connectors and whatever. So are you Windows or Mac?
Definitely Mac. I do have a trusty Windows 8.1 machine that sits next to my Mac, and its primary function is to edit Visio drawings and to show me how incredibly frustrating the Windows 8 experience is.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So I'm assuming you do most of your blogging from said Mac. Do you do a lot of content creation on other devices?
No, usually, I work by day on a MacBook Pro, and by night, I've got a Mac Mini. That's my home machine, and that's where most of the magic happens. I'll certainly you, make small edits to articles, or monitor my statistics or moderate comments from my iPad. But it's if you really need to sit down and type out several hundred words, an iPad's just not my device of choice.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your blog. When did you get started? You know, when did you know you were big time?
Yeah, it's really amazing. So I started the blog back in 2007, and I had read an article at the time that basically said, you should start a blog. You can start one for free, and it's something that you can put on your resume to set yourself apart. And that's what I did. I started off with Google Blogger and registered for a free account, and I just started writing stuff. I kind of go back now and read some of those earlier posts, and it's just like, ooh, those weren't terribly interesting. But about 3 or 4 months into it, I finally wrote something and that seemed worthwhile. And one of the benefits of using Google Blogger is it's tightly integrated with Google. So you write something, it gets crawled, and I'll never forget the second comment that I moderated was from Josh Fletcher in Australia, and I had no idea who Josh Fletcher in Australia was at that time. But I'm like, wow, I can sit in my underwear in Ohio and I can write something, and if it's meaningful, it can actually help somebody in Australia. And so that was kind of a big deal. And now it's not really something for my resume, although I think it still is that. It's just something where, depending on the day, I'm either helping explain how to solve a particular kind of technical issue, or I'm just ranting on something. But it's therapeutic for me, and sometimes it's helpful for the SAP BI community.
Yeah. So what's your ROI on it, right? I mean, what do you personally get out of the blogging and your other community involvement, right? You're active on Twitter. You are on a podcast network. You consistently speak at user groups and conferences and things like that. What is it about that keeps you coming back? Because it is a lot of work, right?
It can be a lot of work. At any given time, I probably have 30 articles in draft status, and sometimes it's just a catchy headline and one little sentence to remind me, what I intended to write about, and it is an investment, but I where I really got started with blogging was, um, especially when I would encounter issues, or if I figured out something that I didn't think was terribly well documented. Um, it was worth it for me to put something in blog form just for me. And there are certain blog posts that I've written, procedures on how to do something, and I don't keep everything in my head, so I can be at a customer site, and as long as I can get to my blog, I'm actually reading my own blog, following my own instructions for something that I thought was important to remember. So, again, if it's not valuable to anybody else, that's fine. It's things that are personally valuable to me, and like I said, they're crawled by Google, and so that's been pretty good. I think for anybody who wants to be known for some kind of specialty, I think Michael Hyatt said it really well in his book Platform. If you want to build a platform that kind of supports your expertise, the blog is really your home base, and you can be on Twitter, you can be on LinkedIn. You can go speak at conferences and stuff, but the blog is the thing. It's the focal point where people can come back to and find out who you are, and so that's kind of, I think, an important foundation to have set up.
Cool. So to completely switch topics, what is the biggest thing that you have screwed up at work that the statute of limitations has run out on?
Well, one time I wore casual sandals to the office, and I walked past the IT director's office, and who happened to be female, of course. And I later learned through the food chain that men should not wear sandals, and that that I should keep my toes covered.
Sure. So what conferences are you going to be at this year? Where can we find you in person?
Well, I first got my first abstract accepted at the Business Objects Conference back in 2006 in San Francisco, back when Business Objects organized the conferences, and I've just been really lucky. I've had at least one topic submitted since then. So, you know, hopefully, there's usually a lot to talk about. So I'll hopefully be speaking at the SAP Business Objects Conference by ASUG this September. And I'm still waiting to see if I've been accepted or probably rejected for the ASUG annual conference. So those notifications haven't gone yet. I got to speak at the ASUG annual conference back only one time, so 2010, and I was stuck in the last slot on the last day. And I can't remember who the entertainment was that year, but it was just, I was talking about user adoption to business intelligence. So
Yeah.
so you really had to be interested in that topic if you were going to stick around for it. So I tried not to take it personally that rock stars in leather pants were more interesting than talking about user adoption.
Right. So you're an ASUG volunteer now, is that right?
I am. I became an ASUG volunteer just this past year, and so I'm still getting acclimated to my role. I'm on the steering committee for the SAP Business Objects Conference, and so that planning is starting to get underway. We just had a kickoff call recently, and we'll be guiding the community through the whole process of planning the conference, accepting presentations and looking through all the abstracts and making the selections.
So you're hoping to not get the last slot on the last day at that one? Is that the reason you signed up?
I, no, it's just it's something that I'm passionate about, and something that I want to be able to help out with, and there's it is a primarily volunteer organization, and so it does take a lot of volunteers to keep the wheels turning. So you talked about the ROI on my blog. The interesting thing is, we can all hope that we get a really prime speaking slot at a conference and we get lots of attendance, and honestly, that it just doesn't always happen. We can't all be Dave Rathbun, and because of blogging, because of social media, you may be speaking to an hour to a small crowd at the annual conference, but the information that you delivered, it can have a completely independent life beyond that hour, because it can be posted online. It can spin off other topics, and it can just spread and help a lot of people. And I always find it interesting when my conference presentations have been posted on completely separate websites that aren't my blog, like SlideShare. And I remember one time I found it on a Hebrew website. So I really couldn't understand whether they liked it or not. I assume, I can't read Hebrew, but I assume that because it was there, that it helped somebody. So, so it's there's a lot more value that you can bring just beyond, an hour at a conference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think too, it really helps solidify relationships, so it's nice. Somebody's been reading your blog, they see your name on the agenda, they show up, they get to shake your hand afterwards, and then your network is increased, so the next time you have a problem, you can sort of share that out and get some feedback from somebody else in the trenches. So I really enjoy. I don't like prepping for presenting, but I sure do like having those conversations. So more technically speaking, or more generally speaking, I guess, where do you think the future of BI is headed?
That is a fantastic question. So as I sit in my home office in the Midwest, it's I don't think I claim to have a lot of insight, but we've seen business intelligence go from being kind of a very targeted, focused group of people to where business intelligence is a mainstream activity for organizations large and small. And I think just from self-interest, I'm always on the lookout for am I doing something that can be outsourced, or am I doing something that can be sucked into the cloud? And obviously both of those things are trends in our industry, and I think they're inevitable. But it's always for me personally looking for that angle. I've been very lucky. What I forgot to mention when I said I started doing business objects in 2003 was I started doing business objects because somebody quit. And I knew how to spell business objects, and that was about it. But there was a role that needed backfilled, and I'm like, hey, I know Oracle. How hard can this be? A couple of years later, I became a trainer. Because somebody quit. So it's just really, you don't even have to be good at something. You just have to hope that the good people quit and move on to something. In training, for me, in a classroom, I mean that's something that there is virtual training. It can be done over the internet, but it's something that the highest transfer of information always occurs interactively face to face. And so I've been really fortunate. I spent several years doing that, and it helped. Um, Thinking on my feet, presenting 7 hours a day. It made me a better presenter. It made me a better consultant, and and it was something that it just by its very nature, it wasn't going to the cloud. It wasn't going to, some other country, and so that's having those kind of skills in my arsenal. Even though I wouldn't consider myself a full-time trainer now, that's still something that's part of my skill set, and I think um, you know, helps keep me marketable in addition to the other skills that I have.
Right. Right. That's good. So between your blog and your job and your books that you write and your presentations that you prepare, what do you do for fun with the 30 seconds a week that you have left over?
Well, I have 3 children, and so I have 2 daughters and a son, and so that really keeps me busy. My 10-year-old daughter just participated in her first team sport, so we just did basketball, and it was really neat to see my daughter, who, if you can't tell by looking at me, doesn't really come from an athletic family, but she has a good attitude, and she put herself into it, and her team won the championship, so that was really well rewarding. The other thing that I say in the byline on my blog is, when I'm not on a computer keyboard, I like pecking away at a piano keyboard, and so. I've been a musician for most of my life, and I get to play and sing on the worship team at my church. So those are, music and my children are, definitely things that I enjoy.
Great, great. All right, one last question for you. I know that you have, as a professional, traveled quite a bit. Which is the safer bet when you're on the road, Mexican food or barbecue?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna have to just say both. It really depends on where you're at. My I've spent about 6 or 7 years traveling continuously, and some of the rules I developed were avoid chains and don't eat anywhere you can eat when you're at home. And my wife can tell you. Eating Mexican food in the great nation of Texas has completely ruined me on trying to eat it in Ohio. I mean, we just, it's even the better places that we can go to here. It's not the same. It's not the same at all. And barbecue, I was very lucky. I helped a hospital do a business objects upgrade back in 2010, I think, and it was in Kansas City, and not a great city if you're a vegetarian, but Kansas City is definitely a place to go. So I think Mexican and barbecue are both great choices, and always ask the locals. They typically know where to send you.
Okay. All right. Anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we sign off?
No, it's just that it's been it's been a pleasure to speak with you today. It's been neat to see how a guy who didn't know much about business objects 11 years ago, you just keep putting one foot in front of you and you see where it goes, and that's it's a combination of luck and skill. I can't say there's a formula to it. The last thing I'll say is, I'm extremely disappointed that you didn't ask me any questions where the answer was desktop intelligence, and I'll just let it go at that.
Well, you came out swinging with Live Office. I wasn't sure if we'd get thrown out of all of our SAP meetings in the future if we brought desk into it.
Fantastic.
All right, thanks a lot, Dallas. Have a great day.
All right, thank you, Jamie.
All right.
This podcast is hosted and sponsored by EV Technologies. Visit us on the net at savethecms.com.
D-Slayer!